Welcome to the Dental Journeys podcast, brought to you by White Coat Financial. Whether you're a new grad or a seasoned dentist, we're here to share stories of dentists from across Canada, how they got to where they are today, and the strategies that helped them along the way. Plus, we bring in experts from outside of the dental world to share insights on the business and financial side of dentistry, helping you thrive beyond the clinic.
Today on the Dental Journeys podcast, we're joined by Dr. Kamea Aloha Lafontaine, dentist, entrepreneur, and owner of Image Dental in Calgary, Alberta. From clinic ownership to cryptocurrency, Dr. Lafontaine brings a unique blend of insight, honesty, and ambition. In this wide-ranging and down-to-earth conversation, Dr. Lafontaine talks the realities of building a thriving dental practice, the mindset behind long-term investing, and how he balances professional growth with raising a family.
So tell me a little bit about where you grew up and your background, and then if you could lead me into what made you go into dentistry.
Yeah, so I grew up in Saskatchewan, southern Saskatchewan in Regina, and that's where I was born and raised, on the north side of Regina. Mm-hmm. And there were 5 of us, so 4 boys and 1 girl, and I'm the youngest boy. And my mother's from Polynesia, so she came from the island of Tonga, which is way in the South Pacific. Mm-hmm. It's one of the, the Polynesian circle there. Mm-hmm. And she came when she was young. She had a bunch of siblings, and one by one, they came to America. They lived in San Francisco when they were growing up. And my grandfather and my grandmother kind of had to be in different parts of the world as this was happening. And so as they brought child after child, they would work just enough to buy another plane ticket and keep going. And they kind of got everybody settled in eventually. And then my mother did it again. She decided to go to Canada. And that's where she and my father connected. And this is where we ended up. So there's almost no Polynesians in Saskatchewan. We're I think the only ones. One of my aunts came, and really, we just grew up being very unique in that sense. Yeah. And so we grew up with a strong, rich culture. My father's part indigenous too, French, some Irish, and then Métis, Cree, Soto. So we come from this rich, tribal background. So as you can imagine, our families were very kind of into each other. We really loved being together. But then we actually grew up as singers. So dentistry didn't even hit our radar until much later, but we actually grew up singing and performing. And we had this little Jackson 5 type group where we would get on stage and perform for people. And it was wild because she never did it because purely just out of a love for music. Survival, man. We needed money. And my dad was working, and then sometimes he would have to go back to school, and so we'd need money. So we actually grew up from a young age. I was singing probably by 8 years old. I was on stage singing with my siblings. And looking back, it was one of the greatest formative experiences I've ever had, because it taught me to read the crowd. It taught me to look in their eyes and go, are they enjoying this? And now even in dentistry, I'll use that skill and be like, are they following me here when I'm explaining this idea of a root canal or a filling? And so the skills that you pick up as you grow up, they translate. They really do. Everything. If you learn a truth about performing, you learn the truth that's going to help you in your profession. And so we did that growing up. But at some point, my mother, in the back of her head, was always about education. She said, I need a doctor, a lawyer. I need a dentist. I need someone to build me a house. I need someone to start businesses. And then we all just kind of fit in to whatever role we naturally fell into. So she actually does have a doctor, an anesthesiologist's son. She actually does have a lawyer's son. She actually does have a dentist's son. She actually does have a son who can build great things. He's building a $50 million hospital right now. It's really crazy how the thinking that my mother had translated into something real. And so the power of the immigrant mindset, I never underestimate that. When we have immigration in Canada, respect, you're coming from nothing, and I know what's on their mind. It's exactly what was on my mom's mind, and I heard it every day. You got to wake up in the morning early. You got to work hard. You got to come out and work and do the garden with me in the morning, and then you go to school, do your homework, dress up, comb your hair, do all these things. And so I got a lot of respect for that background. And what I carried from it is realizing that if I got to do something bigger from here, this is a launch pad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She got me here. Well, what am I going to do next? And that's the reason why I continue to take risks that kind of seem almost unnecessary at this point.
Yeah.
You know, as dentists, you don't always have to go and try wild stuff. But it's just my personality. Like, I see what they built, and now I'm trying to build something that I can help even more. Because when I look at where she came from to where she is now, I'm like behind, technically, right? If you take a relative,
If you go pound for pound,
yeah, she's still ahead of me. And I'm just kind of lucky that I'm in this position now and that I can. So I got to think bigger, right? In order to kind of match the hard work and the sacrifice that she put in. And that's where I am today, man. I'm really trying to grow things to the point where, like, it's stupid. I know that sounds funny. Like, why would you want to go and take all these risks and do something so big? I have no choice. Yeah. Honestly, like, it's like disrespectful to my parents to not try hard from where I started.
That was the word I was thinking of as you were saying this.
Yeah.
It's almost like a shame if you don't take the baton and take it further.
Right.
It's like, I give this analogy all the time that I was like, success is a little bit like a rocket leaving our atmosphere. It burns up, like when a rocket goes to space, again, I'm not a rocket scientist, but it burns up most of its fuel just leaving our atmosphere. And so those early years, as you're leaving and ascending in your career, in your life, whatever it is, it takes almost all the fuel and it takes so much effort. But then after that, when you get out of our atmosphere, it's less about effort. It's more about direction.
Right.
Because you need to make sure it's calibrated perfectly. And I think with our parents' generation, because same thing, my mom was an immigrant when she came to Canada, theirs was just about brute force, working hard.
Yep.
But then now where we're at, it's like, okay, you still have to work hard,
Yep.
but you really have to be calibrated and be calculated with what am I going to do to take us to the next, take my bloodline and my family to the next sort of stratosphere. Right. How do I take us further?
Which is a lost art now.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't actually think about the family anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they think about, we live in a society where it's very individualistic now. Look at every social media profile. They're not families.
Yeah.
They're individuals.
Yeah. We don't have no more Jackson 5s.
No more Jackson 5s. No more like tribes. Everybody's trying to be their own person, and they're starting to realize that we're not built that way. You know, we're not built to be alone. We're not built to be on our own. We're not built to just be responsible for me. And so a lot of the coaching and a lot of the messages nowadays on social media is really geared towards, how do I get this one person isolated from everyone else so that I can get them to just focus on themselves? Yeah. And you look at housing and how this whole thing came about. You know, it's breaking up the strongest foundation you could have, which is to work together as a family.
Yeah.
Now, I fully appreciate why people don't, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard, it's stressful. They're gonna come for you. They'll betray you. Like I get it. That being said, you're still gonna get that in the rest of the world. With
the family that you choose, you're still gonna get that.
Correct. You just may not feel it as hard because you didn't grow up with them. Yeah. And so I get why people choose strangers and but you can still get alignment in a family. It just takes a lot of work. Yeah. Work that I don't think people are really willing to do anymore.
No, because we are tribal animals. We're wolf packs. Like, that's why we didn't have to be as big as strong as all the other animals in the kingdom. Yeah. Because we worked together and we were smart enough that, like, hey, all of us working together can probably take down this big woolly mammoth. But one of us can't. And I think we have lost that. And you're 100% right. It's difficult to live with family. Like, I grew up, like, right now in my house, I have my grandmother, my mother, my wife, and a baby on the way. There's going to be 4 generations in one house.
I love it.
None of my friends are doing that. It's wild to them. And I'll be very blunt. The only reason I'm doing that is because my mom is a single mom and she has health issues. If that wasn't the case, I definitely would have moved out. I would be living in a condo downtown with my wife and living that whole lifestyle. But now that I'm in this situation where I have the entire family in one house, you really there's something to be said about the satisfaction that comes from responsibility.
Right.
As heavy as it is to carry, having the responsibility to your family and taking care of them, no amount of money, no amount of career stuff ever matches the satisfaction of that responsibility.
100%.
I think that's what you're talking about. We've lost that responsibility or duty to our family and loved ones.
That's what I think is unique about being a dentist, is because everyone depends on you in such a big way in the clinic, right? And so my father recently passed in earlier this year.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And when I appreciate that. And when I reflected on his life and I reflected on what he was about, so we would get these sweaters and we would all kind of match. My mom loved to dress us up, right?
Okay.
So we'd all have similar kind of clothes. My dad's the type that my mom would bleach his sweater and he'd still wear it.
Okay.
Right? He never took it for himself. And as I reflected on it after his passing, I realized like there is something so super powerful about other people being able to depend on you. That is like,
It's beautiful.
it's beautiful. It's powerful. It's there's nothing like it. And recently I was talking with a team member at the office, and she's thinking about moving, but she's thinking about moving closer to the clinic. It was just another example of, okay, that means to a certain extent I'm stable enough and this business is stable enough. She's willing to make a big life choice to maybe move a little closer to the clinic, right? Those kinds of feelings you don't get unless you're willing to like take the leap and take care of others, right? And you do get to the point. I got 4 kids, multi-generational home. My mother-in-law lives with me. I'm ready if my mom wants to live with me. You know what I mean? There's nothing else like it. And I understand why people kind of worry about their retirement because maybe they can't live with their kids. I've spoken with patients who live in retirement homes, and they've literally said, I'm only here because I don't get along with my kids.
Wow.
And I feel it when I hear that. I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Like, and it costs like $7,000 a month to live in a retirement home. Your money's going to get thin real quick.
Yeah.
And so the fear of retirement kind of almost stems from not having that family to fall back on. And that's created so many different policies and so many different products and so many different business models that cater to those who have failing families. And all it does is further push, because now you have all these backup options. The backup option used to be my kids. It used to be my family. And so that I like keeping that around, because the whole tribal experience, in the end, it's the best part of life.
I couldn't agree more. I will say though, it is tough where it's like, if you don't get along, or you just, let's say that a family has like, there's just too much stuff that's too difficult for them to get over.
Absolutely.
It's like, yes, absolutely. Or if you live in a toxic environment or an abusive environment, like that's not what we're saying. It's like stay in those. We're saying like,
there's no rules, right?
Yeah.
It depends.
Exactly.
It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to start from scratch and try to build up that tribal environment. But if you came from like a tough circumstance,
100%.
what can you do?
Yeah. Right. Like in those cases, sometimes it's not worth keeping the family around, but there's a lot of cases where it's like, I just feel like that message isn't out there as much anymore of like, if you can, let's say, keep things in the family and like bear that responsibility and do things together, it is one of the most rewarding things in life.
Absolutely.
To be able to do stuff with your family.
Yeah. So I'm blessed to have had that growing up.
Yeah.
And I understand that a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
They got to figure out a way to get it back. You know, they got to figure out a way to build it for themselves. But it's really satisfying when you just feel like, oh, people depend on me to show up on time. People should depend on me to go to work and to do a good job and to take care of patients and just to take care of the business, so that they can just relax and do their work and, pay for their rent or pay for their home. That's the ultimate feeling I find in dentistry, is just knowing that people depend on you and you can do it.
100%. So you went to school in Saskatchewan for dental school.
U of S.
And right out the gate, did you start as an associate? Did you start a clinic right away? What was your career path fresh out of dental school?
Well, I did work for the first year or two. Actually, I don't even know if I made it to year 2.
Okay.
I jumped right into clinic ownership.
Okay.
So
startup or a purchase?
It was a purchase.
Okay.
Yeah. So my banker tipped me off that this guy was looking.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, my boss, I later found out that my boss knew, but he obviously wanted me as an associate. So, so that's another side to like dentistry that you got to understand. There's incentives, right? I probably wouldn't tell my associate that there's all these clinics for sale that I'm aware of if they're a great associate, and so I don't blame them. Like, it's fine, but I heard about it.
Yeah.
So I met with them, it all worked out, and I ended up purchasing his clinic.
Okay.
And, I was fresh out of school, essentially, about a year and a half in, and I just jumped right into clinic ownership. That was tough.
Yeah.
However, my mind had always been primed for business because even in dental school, I was more interested in sort of like the logistics of how business worked.
Okay.
I had read some old training from a guy from Calgary, actually, Dr. Dave Robertson. And he talked a little bit about clinic ownership. He had like satellite practices everywhere. And then he kind of lucked out with the development here in Calgary. And then he was able to consolidate into one practice with like over 30 chairs.
That's a monster. Clinic.
It's a monster.
Yeah.
And so I always saw that. And his advice was, you know, I've ran the multi-clinic model.
Yeah.
And I had one really big, well-run practice.
Yeah.
He's like, this is better.
Yeah.
All day, every day. And I've always kept that thinking, but I also watched other kind of training, like the 60-second crown prep. This is a super old video. They weren't even wearing gloves when they were like doing the training. And in it said, if you calculate the amount of seconds that the burr is in contact with the tooth as you're cutting it for a crown, you're really only on the tooth around a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And so technically every dentist doesn't spend an hour or an hour and a half doing their crowns. It's only minutes. So I started taking all these ideas and I'm like, oh, okay, I should time myself. I should, you know, figure out how to be efficient. And I started doing the math and I'm like, a patient, because we're procedure based, the patient doesn't necessarily care that the extraction takes the full hour. If you can get it out in 10 minutes, that's better.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to sit there just so you can prove, yeah, I spent an hour with you, it's worth your time. Yeah. No, actually the dentist who does it in 10 minutes is actually way better experience, right? So I took all these business ideas and I was like, I saw the opportunity, I jumped right in.
Okay.
Man, I got hit with so many problems. Like it was hard, man.
Yeah.
Like, and I learned so much. I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I just got hit in the face so many times. Now, luckily, I just kept pushing through. But within the first 5 years, I started seeing the big picture, right? Like the rental situation wasn't exactly what I wanted.
Like your lease agreement?
Yeah. Okay. And it was actually a shared space with another dental clinic. I didn't like that.
That's weird. Yeah.
I know. The owner of the clinic also owned the building. That's another thing I didn't necessarily like. There was just a lot, I could see into the future going, long term, I don't know if this would be the right situation for me. And quite frankly, to this day, it was the best financial decision I made. Yeah. I can't really say I knew that up front. It was just sheer force in the beginning. Like I just kept showing
like that rocket ship.
It's the rocket ship. I eventually
brute force
got through it. And then this is when I started noticing corporate coming in and
DSOs,
starting to do
consolidation.
Offers, and I saw like smaller DSOs and they were trying to meet with me and chat. Anyway, it all worked out in the end where I ended up selling it to my associate and his best friend.
Okay.
And they took over. And it was actually the right move because then I was able to kind of exit that first practice. Oh, by the way, in between, I also bought the practice next to it, all of the equipment and everything, because it was connected.
The ones that were
door.
connected. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so like, it was a 12-chair practice and by the end of it.
It's a big practice.
Yeah, and we had about 16 to 20 staff, depending on the time of the year, and it was a lot, man. Yeah. The hardest part about it is HR. I'm telling you. Like people, but that's also the most rewarding part. It's so ironic how like the thing you hate is also the thing that feels the best. Because when you like, you know, can give people a raise because they're doing well, or when you can help them out when they need it, it's the same thing I feel with my kids. Like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. Because you just know that whatever I want, I'll get. Now I can help other people get what they want, right? So I sold that practice, and it's an accumulation of things. This is why everything in life, it's so hard to give advice. Because my life at the time, personally, we were having kids. You know, so young kids at home. My wife and I were sharing a vehicle. We had one vehicle, 4 kids.
That's a lot.
And I was going to work, and she was with the kids. And it was like, man, the stress level was like level 10. And luckily I had family nearby. They were always kind of helping me out. I have a brother who's an electrician too in Hawaii. He would come in and kind of help me do little things, tell me how to change the ballast. So even in my new clinic,
I saw you.
They're like, you know how to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm useful. I can do more things.
I saw you up in the roof. I was like, what is this man doing?
I know. And I honestly, I purposely do that, right? Yeah. I know I could hire an electrician and not even think about it. But I think just like in the home, you got to show people that you know what to do so that once you outsource it, you know if they're doing a good job too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that's a business principle that I've always followed. I need to know how to do hygiene. I need to know how to do steri. I need to know how to fix things. I need to know supplies. I need to be able to order them myself. Because otherwise you don't know how anything gets done.
As a founder, I'm so glad you brought that up. As a founder of any business, as a CEO, you have to be a jack of all trades.
Correct.
But then you hire VPs and things of that nature who are specialists in that one area. And like, that's exactly what a general dentist is. They better know how to do the hygiene. They better know how to do the marketing, like at a base level, so that they can outsource it and then do like audit the work and make sure it's done well.
Yeah. Otherwise you just can't manage it. Right. Yeah. So I learned all of those skills, and then it was something that one of the dentists I met with, he was an older dentist and he was trying to hang on. He was in the game for about 39 years. Okay. He's like, I need to work another year because I'm about to get this pin. Now, I don't know why that hit me so hard, right? And his wife had some health issues as well, but that story hit me so hard that he waited his entire career to retire. His wife gets hit with a health issue, and now he's really focused on this pin. And I know it wasn't just about the pin. Like, I'm not saying that, but the way I interpreted that is that's just not what I want. I don't want to work so hard to the point of exhaustion, to sacrifice all the family time and all that, only to find out in the end that something, time runs out. Yeah. The same kind of thing happened with my parents when my father passed. My mother and my father had been planning a cruise, 60 days to the Pacific Islands so she'd go back to her homeland and take my dad. And they got to go in November, right before. I'm like, man, what if they waited like 3 more months? It would have been too late.
They would have been too late, yeah.
And so it's like the accumulation of realizing that it's time, man. Like you just don't have time. So you have to structure your life in the way that you want to spend it. And maybe this dentist loved what he did, and that was like his thing. But as you can see from my content, like I bring my kids to work. They were painting recently, right? Because when I walk in that room now, I'm like, oh yeah, we did that. Yeah. I like that feeling, but that's just me. Like, I don't know what other people want. Maybe they're like, why would you ever touch a paintbrush? You're a dentist. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'll get dirty and then I'll do it on the weekend. Like, it doesn't even matter to me because what I want is the time with them and to be productive at the same time. I just accomplished that. Yeah. Now they know how to paint, what primer is, why you need multiple coats, why you can't just swing it around willy-nilly without taping up everything. That to me was like double the value than just hiring it out. And what are my kids going to do? Sit at home and watch YouTube? Like that's like detrimental where what I did might have looked like a bunch of hard work that nobody wants to do as a dentist. I got a lot of benefit.
Yeah, it was a parenting activity more than anything else. Time to spend together, teach them stuff, because you have to do that. I feel like, I don't have kids yet. I have one on the way. And I feel like parents are way too soft on their kids now. Like way too soft.
Bro, you want to go in that direction? Let's go. I agree with you. But I'm also starting to realize that regardless of what I do as a parent, they're going to have no choice but to figure it out. Yeah. They might delay learning the lesson because they didn't want to learn from the experience of their parents. But at some point, life is going to hit them in the face anyway. And I almost feel like it's more my job to show them as opposed to tell them. Yeah. And that's why you'll see I'm actually strategically making content that I know they're going to see. I want them to see me going through challenges. I want them to see me trying to build a business. I want to see them, me deal with hiring and firing and all that stuff. I could tell them. Yeah. But when they see it and I tell them the truth about what's going on, man, they're gonna like in 10 years look back and go, oh, that's what he meant. And I'm just investing all these little nuggets and lessons. Like right now, I know they don't hear what I'm saying. I know they're like, yeah, whatever, Dad. Yeah. You're old. But eventually, just like I did, I can look back and go, oh, that's what my dad was doing. He was setting us up. He was making sure the foundation was set. Yeah. He was tired, but he still went. Yeah. I can see all that now. I just couldn't see it at the time. So a lot of what I do now with business and dentistry is using that to raise my kids. Okay. And I tell them all the time, like, if you want to see me, come to work.
Yeah.
And my daughter took me up in the offer. She learned how to do as like a steri tech.
Okay.
So she got all trained in everything and knows how to do the women's stuff. And now she'll just come in and kind of like support whenever we're like too busy, that the assistants are running around, they need to get things moving. Man, it's so cool having your kid there and you just leave them alone and she walks in the office and be like, so how's it going, Dad? Like most people can't even fathom their kids being around them when they're at work, you know, because they see them as like, oh, you're too young to hear this truth, or you're too young to experience this. I want you to be a kid forever. I don't know, man. Like my mom came to America when she was like, 12, 13. Yeah. She was a mannequin. Yeah. Like back when they had live mannequins at the department store, right? Like, you know, Hudson Bay shut down and went bankrupt. Yeah, they used to have live mannequins. She was one of them, and her friends from school would come by and poke her. Oh, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting here going, there's no age too young to tell your kids the raw truth about what's going on. Yeah. If that's what my mom was doing at 12, I mean, like, what am I saving them for? Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is with the social media age, they're already being told a bunch of crap anyway through the feed. Yeah. Right. And I don't know what they're being told. Yeah. So I have to constantly battle that every day and try to get my message out there. So I realized I got to make content because you
got to get on their phone.
Like they're listening to somebody. Yeah. I got to be in the feed.
Yeah, that's so funny.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so into content. I'm driven for them to see what I'm doing. The truth is I don't really care if other people, like, we use it to network. Like I met you through social media, right? So I love this stuff because I have gone to crazy places because of social media. Right now I'm mentoring with Kanye West dentist in LA. Through social media. You know, we connected, he contacted me, and now I go there and I'm watching him do like diamond cases with like full mouth veneers. And I'm just like, this is amazing what he does. It's a whole different world all through social media. Yeah. So while I understand the downfalls of it, again,
it's a tool. Rules. Use it however you want. Use it. Yeah, exactly. Like my entire business has been built off of social media. Not because clients necessarily reach out to me because of social media. It just makes, like, for example, when a referral is sent, like Kamea might be like, hey, you know, this guy, go talk to him. And normally that would be done via like phone number or email, but no one actually does that. So what happens is they share my Instagram profile or something like that to their friend. That person watches content for 6 months and they're like, hey, my friend so-and-so referred me. I'm now ready to start working together. And even if it's not that aspect, it's like, yes, with the podcast or when I meet someone in person, the ice is kind of broken. Like I've met you for 30 seconds at PDC and then today, but I don't feel like I don't know you. Okay, like, so it feels like we're friends.
I would advise any dentist who's right out of school or even while they're in school, develop your personal brand. Yeah. Here's what happened when I started working with this clinic that I eventually purchased. I met with the owner and we were just discussing, you know, potentially working there, what days, things like that, associate agreement.
Is this in the Saskatchewan clinic or at Image?
This is here in Alberta.
Image Dental, okay.
And she had seen some of my YouTube videos, right? The hiring manager saw it and she said this, I feel like I met you already. Yeah. Man, that's the truth. Like if you are making content and people can actually see what you're like and see how you speak, it's like you already met them. And that helps to grease the wheels when it comes to building relationships, right? So I'm a huge fan of using this tool to get where you want to go. Yeah. Because the alternative, you know, you just have to go meet people in real life and go to networking events and all this stuff. But there's so much leverage in just making one piece of content. And it actually, like, I don't know if you noticed the algorithm, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. If you make good content, you break through. They're changing how you actually reach people because the AI actually does such a great job at figuring out what you like and just giving you what you like. It's recommending people with like 500 followers. It doesn't matter. It's the content. Yeah. So on that, with your stuff, remember how you sent me the your presentation afterwards?
Yes.
Guess what I'm going to do with it? When I'm working with some future associates that I'm planning on interviewing and potentially bringing into the clinic, I want them to be financially stable. Yeah. I don't want them to think that they should go about this with no help or support or anything. So I'm actually, as part of the onboarding, gonna slide in that presentation and be like, hey, by the way, I know you just got out of school and you're probably worried about debt and stuff. My job is to make sure you make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
But you should probably look into some of this stuff because you got to time this out for yourself and get better advice, because I didn't when I first got out. Everything I've done so far has been pure, like, personal research.
Yeah.
Whether it
figuring it out.
And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You know, a lot of this stuff, I learned you have to pay for good advice.
Yeah.
Like you should pay an advisor. You should pay a good lawyer. Just get a great accountant. Stop being cheap. Like, you're paying for it on the other end.
Yeah.
By making huge
You're paying
mistakes.
for it one way or another.
And this goes back to what we were talking about before. Dentists are unique in that sense that they can make so many mistakes and they can make it all disappear by out-earning their mistakes. That's the problem with our industry, is for whatever reason, they're spending foolishly, they're investing foolishly, a little bit of an ego, so they think they can do it themselves. Then they get all like bent out of shape. Life starts to compound all of these problems. And then they finally realize, damn, I should have got a better lawyer. I wish I would have got a better advisor. Yeah. And then you end up just paying anyway.
Yeah. It's opportunity cost. I tell my clients, that's why I actually like working with people who are younger, because they're like a fresh slate. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, if I can give you fantastic advice in your late 20s and onwards, by the time you reach your 60s, you are going to be millions of dollars ahead. So when I talk to my clients, I'm like, the benefit of you doing this now is like, I can't guarantee it, but like, I could kind of guarantee that if you follow my advice, I will make sure you are millions of dollars richer than if you were to just try it on your own. And I'm like, the only two things you got to avoid, and this came from one of Ricky's mentors, my co-host, as long as you avoid drugs and you avoid divorce, you'll get there as a dentist. So you can make mistakes along the way, but then there's that opportunity cost of the timing. And I always say, the people that are the best at their job are the people who are obsessed with their job. Like, if you talk about me, I don't do anything but work. Like, literally, I have the most fantastic wife. I don't know about anything. Like, if you ask me to fix stuff around the house, I can't do it. I don't cut my lawn. I don't clean my house. I don't wash dishes. I don't make food. That's why we get along, man. I literally do nothing. I wake up in the morning. I don't have a morning routine. I wake up, I go to the bathroom, and I hit the desk and I start working. And then once I get like the most urgent stuff out of the way, I hit the gym, I walk the dog, and then I come back and I hit the desk. And I don't come up from the desk until it's time for dinner. And I'll have dinner with my wife, and I'll stretch or do whatever it is, take a shower and go to sleep. And I'll do that 7 days a week. And it's like, the only reason I even bring that up is if you were to ask me to take time to go learn about some other thing, let's say it's not finance. I don't know what it would be. I don't know. Health and fitness. It would take time away from the thing that I spend so much time at. So I'd have to go learn that, start at base one, and take forever to learn it up until the point where someone with master, I could just pay them and they could teach me exactly how to do it. And I could cut out 10 years of trial and error. And it's like, that's why it's so important to delegate. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And so with kids, I'm a big believer in that, right? Like, just focus on the thing that you want to do. I've made the mistake in the past of trying to do too many things at the same time. And even now, I'm always kind of thinking, am I doing too many things at the same time? So my life has basically been limited to the gym, work, and crypto. That's it. That's my life. And obviously my family.
Obviously your family.
I'm more of the opinion that they are going to come into my world. I'm not going to dip into their world.
You integrate them in.
Yeah, because like, while I appreciate that high school is a big deal and, you know, there's singing lessons and all that stuff, I'm the kind of dad, I'm like, go do it. Let me know when I got to show up for the singing thing. I'm not going to sit there and baby them along the way. Because what they really need to figure out is like, do I even want to do this? And I had like a moment with one of my daughters where I could tell there was something she didn't want to do. And she was fighting it. I could feel it. She was fighting having to go practice it, do it, participate in it. I just pulled her aside. I'm like, you know, there's no rules, right? Like, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. And it was just like this burden lifted off of her shoulders, because I think when a parent is too all up in their kids' lives, the kid thinks that they have to perform and do that thing because the parents are like watching them all the time.
I never thought of that.
So it traps them in this like direction. And the truth is, parents don't really know what their kids want to do. Yeah. They have a sense because they're watching them and seeing how early they wake up to practice and all that. But when you know your kid's not into it, like, I'm of the opinion, like, get out as soon as possible, run for the hills, find that thing, because it's compounding, it's opportunity cost. If you don't figure that out soon, you're wasting your time.
I think it's when you find the thing you want to do, go all in. That's what I mean. So now that I know what I want to do, I know where I want to take this business 100%. And all that. I got very lucky. I knew what I wanted to do at like 19. And ever since then, I have not deviated at all. I don't have shiny object syndrome. I'm like, I'm going to do this till I'm old and gray. I'm already gray. When I'm old, it's like, I'm going to do this forever because I understand that it's going to compound. I'm going to get better and better and better. It's like compound interest in a stock. I'm just never going to sell. I'm just never going to sell out of what I'm doing. And it's like, I love it, man. With the kids, when they're young, or even when you're a young associate, you have to try out everything until you find your thing. Then you go all in. Like I was just talking to a dentist yesterday, we did a podcast together. And he's like, yeah, at this stage of my career, he's like, I'm just doing everything. And I was like, you're a GP. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do everything until you find the thing. Then maybe you could tighten up your scope of practice.
That's right. And to all the associates out there, it's a red flag for an owner when you say, I don't do this. And you're like new.
And you're like, you're a GP. Like, you're supposed to.
Unless you have a specialty that you're going, because that's the tip off. If they don't like too many things, they're probably headed towards specialty. And you're not going to have them as an associate for a long time. So you got to be careful when you're an associate. Like saying no clinically to certain procedures, you're kind of, that's not a good thing.
You know if I'm being frank, you don't have that right out of school.
Correct.
You get like, what you can get. Like you take what you get. Like do everything at the start. Beggars can't be choosers when you're first starting, especially in really competitive markets. Like if you're in Toronto, if you're in Vancouver, if you're in Calgary even, like more dense areas, you got to do everything when you first start. Correct. That's just the nature of it. And you want to do everything. Right? And I'm curious, so we went off on a tangent, but I wanted to ask about, you sold that clinic in Saskatchewan.
Yes.
What did you do after that? Is that when you made that pivot to leave dentistry?
Yes. So after I sold, we were sitting on a pile of cash that I've never seen in my life before.
You got a lifetime capital gain exemption. You're like, all right, I'm out.
No, I never activated that.
Okay, so you still have it.
I still have it.
There you go. Okay.
I saved it for the big one.
For the big one. Okay. No, it's smart because you don't have to use it.
My kids are young, right? Like they can't play in this world until they're 18.
Yeah, and so you had to trust.
If I do it there, that's not the right time to do
it. Smart. Because now you can multiply it with the kids. You had to trust. You got 5 kids.
That's right.
Or 5 people in the family outside of you. It's like,
So now that's 6 people in total that can take advantage of the capital gains exemption. And so I sold and I was sitting on this pile of cash and I'm like at the time I didn't know anybody, right? I was still just like hammering my way through. I had started doing some insurance stuff, but once you sell your business, where's the cash flow consistently going to come in to pay for that level of insurance, right? So I learned through mistakes and just how it is, and then taxes, you got to think about that. But I split it up into thirds, right? And I went into some stocks and private equity, crypto, and then I said the rest I'm gonna leave it because I want to buy another practice. Eventually, at some point, I just left that pile there.
If you don't mind asking, how old were you around this time? When you sold?
I sold at 33.
Okay, and you had all your kids already born at that time?
All the kids were born at that point.
Okay, they were just young. Okay.
And so I took the move to Calgary and, we started renting and just
What made you make the move?
Well, I looked at the Toronto market. I looked at Vancouver market. And the way I measured it was actually looking at the valuations of the dental businesses. And I looked at these and I'm like, I don't ever want to own one of these. Now, that being said, as soon as I say that, there's a lot of Vancouver and Ontario dentists be like, it's just because you can't make it out here. Fair enough. There are extremely successful businesses in dentistry in both of those places, but just what was available, I'm like, this is like bottom of the barrel type stuff.
And it's a trade-off of what do I want to do? Do I want to slave away and work so that I can live in this certain area?
We calculated the cost of living and we're like, man, I wish I was 20 years earlier in Vancouver. I would have stayed. I wish I was 20 years earlier in Toronto. It would have been great. So I looked at the whole country and based on my situation, Calgary was the right place to go.
Got it.
And I liked the Alberta vibe and all that kind of stuff. So we moved and, I started getting into these different investment asset classes. But my main one that I was focused on was crypto. Because when you invest with private equity or in stocks, there's not much to do after that. You just kind of okay, I own it. And hopefully the CEO of that business that I invested in or the ETF manager or whatever, they do their job so that I don't lose. Crypto is a little more hands-on. I used to be really interested in startups and startup investing. The problem that I realized about it is that you have a 10-year minimum investing period where you got to let it grow.
Yeah.
Unless you hit a unicorn, then lucky you. But most of the time, your money's trapped for 10 years.
If not longer. Yeah.
If not longer. And so while it's potentially great upside, no one was dropping term sheets on my desk to invest my measly, $500K into some startup.
Yeah.
And plus, like, if you don't have the network, you're not going to get the right deal flow.
Yeah.
I just knew, like, I can't play in that world.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, well, what if I just started? What if I was the one getting the money to invest? So I was like, I need to learn to code. That was like, at the time, look at the content at that time.
Yeah.
It was coding is the way to go.
Okay.
So in I was 33 years old, and here I am as a dentist joining a coding class with a bunch of
like kids,
failed engineers who now want to do coding because they couldn't work in oil and gas, right? So like I'm doing this coding thing, and everyone's like, "You're a dentist?"
Yeah.
So weird, man. And I loved it, man. Like I was all up in there. I actually passed, which was cool because it was so hard, man. I have never struggled so hard in any kind of school. I took the C train in Calgary to this place because, when we first moved here, I was trying to get to know the city and I was going to all these events. And while I was in that coding class, I found Bitcoin. This was around 2016, 2017.
Okay. Good.
Right before that 2017, Christmas top where it just exploded and the whole world was like, whoa, Bitcoin, right? I think it hit 20K at the time.
I feel like that's when it was really like, I'm here. I'm an asset class.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I'm making content. I'm the DeFi dentist.
Yeah.
I'm doing coding. People are like, what are you doing, man? I could feel it. I could viscerally feel all of my colleagues like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, drill and fill. What are you doing?
Yeah, just go work as a dentist. Like, what are you doing? Like trying to learn to code. If I didn't learn to code, I wouldn't have been so committed and absolutely become a believer in DeFi and Bitcoin and crypto in general, because I began to understand what it's really about.
You wouldn't understand it. Like, again, you have a much deeper understanding of cryptocurrency than even me, because I'm a finance guy. But I don't understand like the nitty gritty of the technology behind it.
So let me just summarize for you real quick, because it's so important to me, because in the last 200 years, there has been no asset class added, right? Then suddenly digital assets come around. We've all had gold for a long time, stocks, bonds.
It's all existed.
It's all existed. And then in the last 200 years, suddenly there's this new asset class called digital assets.
Yeah.
We also started seeing all this like chaos around the world, and countries were using it because it was the separation of money and state. Yeah. When America was founded, they had the separation of church and state, and now you got the separation of money and state, this neutral money that no one really controlled, right? And so I started thinking about that and going, that's kind of like, I resonated with those values because at the end of the day, again, I just want freedom to do what I want, right? And so this kind of freedom money kind of matched my vibe, and I was so into it. And so I started studying like, oh, you can build on this stuff. You can actually create. Like, how you buy a stock and it's basically a contract that you own these many shares and then you can sell it on this exchange anytime you
participate in the profits and the losses. Yeah.
Well, in the blockchain world, you just have a smart contract that lives there and you can just do it yourself. There's no like middleman. So your transaction fee is the extent of your expenses. And then at that point, you kind of got to study like, which one am I investing in and which communities are going to stick around, because there's so many now. Like, it's really like a casino, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the dot-com bubble. Like when the dot-com bubble came up, the internet was new. Everyone's like, is this company going to really be around? Like no one knew Amazon is going to become Amazon.
Yes.
And right now, when we're looking at all these cryptocurrencies, no one knows which one is going to be the one that we use in the future.
So
and
think
like,
about this.
We do with Bitcoin, but that's really because it's like the early market leader.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So think about this for a minute. Dogecoin has actually outperformed Bitcoin over the last 10 years. It does absolutely nothing. It was built as a joke.
You know what's funny about Dogecoin? I bought my first car off Dogecoin. I was at UBC. I was screwing around with my friends, and I was like, I'll put like $500 into it. This is back when I'm working at TD and at UBC. I don't remember what it was. It was $500 or $1,000. And it like went up, it skyrocketed, and it went to like $5 or $6 grand. And I was like, oh, sick. Like I'm going to buy a car with this because I need a car. I'm tired of going on the SkyTrain. And so I used that as my down payment on my car.
Your story, there's so many hidden stories like this. Yeah. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And the problem with this industry, everyone calls it a scam.
Yeah.
Right. My argument is, well, everything's a scam. People think dentistry is a scam. They don't like fluoride.
Yeah.
You know, they think we shouldn't be doing fillings. They think root canals are killing you.
Okay.
I mean, finance. You know, people
finance
think
is all a scam.
Insurance is a scam. My advisor's a scam. Like, it doesn't matter what you talk about. Everything's a scam. And even Amazon, you just brought it up.
Yeah.
Like in the early days, go look at the newspaper clippings. They were literally calling it a scam.
Yeah.
What's this Jeff Bezos guy doing selling books on Amazon? And then now it's what, 50% of all e-commerce on the planet?
Yeah, that's absurd.
So the fact that most people in this world think that crypto is a scam is exactly where the opportunity is.
100%.
Because by the time, and we're moving in that direction, you know, the US president has over $500 million worth of crypto.
Yeah.
He's like, I think, is he 80 yet? I don't know. Like,
I don't know.
An 80-year-old is outbeating you on figuring this out.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm convinced that society is just so conditioned by mainstream media and whatever they're hearing on Facebook that they are missing opportunity because they're not willing to go explore it themselves.
Yeah.
And I have no desire to change their mind because I'm having a great time in DeFi. I'm having a great time in my little part of the world where I'm starting to figure out, okay, if this thing, you know, goes up by this amount, I'm kind of done life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's that worth? Well, now I can just do even more with my family. Like people don't realize that stories like what you told with the Dogecoin thing, this happens all the time. But everyone thinks it's like, okay, you get lucky, yes, until this thing becomes so mainstream.
Yeah.
They just approve banks to custody it.
Yeah.
You know, the US president and his whole family have built a DeFi project. He launched a meme coin right at the election. You know, we have Bitcoin ETFs have been around like in Canada for a long time.
For a little while now, yeah.
And when you look around the world, like who thought Bitcoin would hit 100K US recently?
Nuts.
You know, I remember when I was buying it for 7K back in the day. And when it dipped to 3K, we all thought it was dead.
Yeah. Never
realizing that just in a short few years,
it'll be,
be over 100K.
Yeah.
Right. So is it a scam? Yeah, there's a lot of scams out there.
Yeah.
100%. You could go to like a dental clinic and get scammed. You know, some of them get written up in our updater thing. Right. Yeah. And so this whole notion that you shouldn't explore something because you heard it's a scam. Well, that's why you won't explore health options. That's why you won't explore business opportunities. That's why you won't explore the services that you're offering because you're not even willing to look.
Yeah.
And so most people who are struggling to prepare for retirement are usually stuck in that mindset. They're not even willing to look into it themselves and experiment a little bit. And you don't have to do a lot, but enough to like learn the game and realizing there's a new asset class that has not been added in 200 years. Yeah. And you're about to like be on the later end of it. Cause I remember when Amazon was just starting, I was in like early days dental school.
Okay.
But I had no money. I had a line of credit.
Yeah.
If I was smart, I would have bought it. You know, gold at the time was like $300.
Yeah. Hindsight's 2020 though.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
And so I look at this going, it's just because I never looked into it. And so I didn't know what to do with that line of credit or money. And I'm probably lucky that I didn't because spending debt.
Leveraged investing is wild. Yeah.
It's dangerous. And I know guys that bought BMWs with a line of credit right out of dental school. And man, this is crazy. So on the crypto front, it's legitimized.
Yeah.
Once your bank starts allowing you to access it, you will buy it.
Yeah.
It's going to infiltrate all the infrastructure because even with AI, you need this layer of infrastructure to actually make sure you can legitimize which content is real and which isn't, and which content or which technology can do that. It's crypto.
Smart contracts.
It's smart contracts. It's the blockchain. It's cryptography that's going to help you validate that piece of content that White Coat Financial put out, that's really from him.
Yeah.
All these other ones are AI copies. So we're moving into that world now where it's a big problem. You got AI doctors
100%.
who are giving advice. You know, you got all kinds of AI videos everywhere. Like who knows who's behind all this stuff? Crypto allows you to make something in the digital world scarce and unique and one of a kind. And people are really fading how important that is in the world we now exist in.
Yeah. There's so much I want to talk about right here. I'm going to start with, have you used Google LM yet? The LM notebook?
No.
Okay.
No.
Insane tool talking about how to determine if something's real or fake. It can take a document. Let's say I don't know, let's say one of your kids is studying, I don't know, history. Mm-hmm. They could take their PDF of their textbook, upload it to Google LM notebook, and it will then read the text back to them, but as a podcast, as if it's two people talking. It is so good because think about it. We remember stuff from like a podcast or a book or something, a story that we've read a long time ago, because humans are conditioned to listen to stories. That's what we're conditioned for. Yeah. It'll turn your notes or whatever into a story so that you can understand it. But if you think about it, it's just fake voices. So like we could make a podcast talking about how a certain type of meme coin is the way to go going forward, but it could be completely fake. And so it's like, it's so important to know what's real and what's not. And so I just wanted to bring that up while we were talking about it. But with cryptocurrency, I think the big thing is fear of loss. Mm-hmm. But there's also a double-edged sword where people want to get rich quickly. And any one of my clients or anyone, I'm technically not like allowed to invest their money in Bitcoin for them. Our industry hasn't gotten there. But I have clients who are like, I want to invest in Bitcoin, and I will help them do it. I'll show them how to do it. Here's how you set up your wallet. Here's, don't put this on the exchange. You need a ledger, whatever the case is. Remember this code. Don't ever forget it. Mm-hmm. Do what you want. And so I'll help them set it up, and I'll make sure that, like, for me, I'm like, if you want to invest in this, I don't want you to view this as a get rich quick scheme. Like, yes, I got lucky with Dogecoin, but I own Bitcoin, I own ETH. And it's like, those are things I'm just going to hold until, like I said, I'm old. I want to be in this forever.
See,
I want to pass this on to my kids.
That's the right mindset.
Because I want them to go, yo, dad bought this stuff before we were born. And it's like, now you can't question whether I love you. I do love you. So I was thinking about you before you were even born. But totally. It's like, you shouldn't be thinking of it as a get rich quick scheme, but also don't bet the house on it so that you don't have to worry about fear of loss. Set aside an amount that you're comfortable with losing. Not to say that you're going to, but that you wouldn't have anxiety around it. And now when you get rid of that anxiety, if there is a dip, because there's going to be huge ebbs and flows and volatility in crypto, that's just the nature of it. Now you're not going to go and panic sell everything because you're like, I was comfortable with this going to zero. So let's wait till it goes to zero. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, great, you held on. It's like, I think that's the key thing people need to realize with cryptocurrency. It's a long-term play and you need to ride it out because it's going to be wild.
I know in your industry, there's limits to what you can recommend or put people into.
I'll put a disclaimer. This isn't advice and all that, but like I'm a fan of the asset class. I think people should be investing in it.
Okay. I'm glad you said that because I know so many dentists that low key are in crypto and they just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
There's a reason there was a DentaCoin at one point.
Oh, was there? I didn't know.
Yeah. Like dentists are the biggest do-it-yourselfer kind of, I think, industry in the world because they have the means to try, right? And then recover financially if it all goes bad. Yeah. And I just know so many low-key investors in crypto. Yeah. But they just don't talk about it, because you can just keep working. Yeah. And then let things play out. Yeah. And that's the greatest position to be in if you put in the amount that you're comfortable with and you just keep working.
And you dollar cost average your way in, you slowly put in,
like
keep
Buffett
adding.
always says, like the stock market and really any market is just a way to, take money out of the hands of the impatient and put it into the hands of the patient. Yep. And so if you bought Bitcoin at $100 and then it went to 200 and I doubled my money. Well, now you're looking back at it at 100K US and you're like, damn it, I shouldn't have sold. And this is the very first time in crypto history where we have like friendly US policy, which tends to permeate other countries' policies, right? And the demographics are right for this too. Baby boomers they own all the assets. And now we're looking at the younger generation going, well, I'm priced out of housing. The stock market's all-time highs.
It's always going to be all-time highs. It'll drop and then it'll go to all-time highs again.
But they look at them, they're like, well, I have to buy the stock at this price?
Yeah, but they don't realize if you just hold it.
And they're giving up because they're impatient because social media has conditioned them to have short attention spans.
I need to double my money with options trading in 2 weeks.
Hence where crypto came into play. Yeah. But if they can adopt a long-term mindset with a growing industry. So from startup investing, you learn that you're not just interested in the actual business itself. You're interested in the total addressable
sector.
market and the sector and how much it can grow. If your sector could grow by 10x, that's great.
Yeah.
But if you're just worried about this one business's 10xing, I mean, that's a little bit harder of a thesis to invest with. Think about crypto. We're at like a $2-3 trillion, like, I mean, what's gold?
It's a baby.
It's a baby.
It's like, no, forget, it's not a baby.
We have $1 trillion companies.
No, it's an embryo.
Yes.
It's an embryo. It is just starting, which is why I tell my clients, you don't need to be impatient. Because even if, like, for example, I have clients who come to me and they're young and they want to start doing this stuff. And I'm like, well, we need to get your like base set. Like, we need to make sure that you're financially in a good spot.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to miss it. And I tell them, it's an embryo. If you buy in when it's a baby, it still has all of adulthood to go. So don't worry about it. And if it's truly an asset class, my number one litmus test for an investment is, am I buying this to just sell it, or am I buying it to hold it? And if I'm buying it to just sell it, I'm probably investing in a bubble, because I'm hoping some other sucker will come buy it off me for more than what I bought it for. For me, it's like I joke with clients, I pretend like our assets are illiquid. I'm not hitting the sell button ever.
Yeah.
Because we've set up the portfolios in a way that we don't need to. Like, I don't bet on individual companies. Like, we're going to own index funds and ETFs. It's because the reason I even do that is because knowledge is instantaneous now. Information is instantaneous. Back in the day, let's talk about the 70s, you could own a stock and know something about that stock that no one else in the world knows yet. And they're not going to know for another 2 or 3 weeks. Imagine a 2 or 3 week head start in a marathon.
Wow.
The race is over.
Yep.
But now the information is the same. That gun is the same for everyone. Everyone hears it all at the same time. So the stock price instantly reflects all publicly available knowledge on that, which is why I don't invest in individual companies. I'm just going to own the entire market.
Yes.
Because if there's something about a certain stock that I think I know that it's going to blow up, it's like, you know that there's some guy on Wall Street who probably has like a PhD and works 80 hours a week and is on Ritalin and Adderall, and all he does is work and uses AI. And that guy can't predict the stock price. What makes you think you're going to do it?
Absolutely.
And so it's like, just buy index funds and ETFs, just hold them. You never have to touch them. You never have to sell them. I feel the same with crypto.
Yeah.
I don't personally invest in any of the meme coins. I stick to the big ones. I really just own Bitcoin and ETH because I'm like, those are the ones I understand. Absolutely. I know, I believe in. The other ones I don't understand well enough to dabble in. So, and honestly, frankly haven't had the time to look into Solana and XRP and all this stuff. I know about them, but I never really dabbled in them. But I tell my clients, I'm like, just hold it. Literally, just hold it. It's like, if you're looking to just sell this stuff, you're playing a loser's game.
Right.
You will lose out, because you're going to kick yourself in hindsight. And that's a beautiful thing about dentistry. You've said it. You earn a high enough income to cover your day-to-day expenses. Just keep doing dentistry.
Yes.
It covers your day-to-day expenses. Don't quit your job. This isn't going to make you rich. It's going to make you wealthy over time, but it's not going to make you rich today. Just chill. Just relax.
Yeah. Oh man, you said so much in there. And one of the keys I find in crypto is you take this budding industry, you adopt a long-term mindset, but you use it because you just got to think of how a lot of these stock guys predict the future is they look at demographics and they look at policy. And so the policy around crypto is shifting
tremendously
in its favor.
Yeah.
You couldn't even say that 2 years ago. They were being sued. Every company that started anything was being sued like crazy. Now, all of these resolutions are starting to come out. They're getting dismissed. They're winning in court, XRP. You know what I mean? Like everything is starting to open up.
It's getting legitimized.
It's getting legitimized. And then once the banks get a hold of it, I mean,
it's
game on, right? So you got to let things cook, you know, and let it grow. And so when I think about this whole industry, you also have to ask yourself on the demographic front, are young people more or less likely to use this digital money in the future?
Yeah.
Right?
Way more likely.
They're going to get connected with all of this stuff. And like, look at all of the celebrities who keep launching their own coins, right?
Not a fan of that.
Zero. They all go to zero. That's why I never invest in them. I know it's a scam. It's a total grift. However, the ability to invest in an individual, it's always a grift until one of them actually works. And you're like, damn, I should have held that one.
Yeah.
Because personal brand is taking off.
It is a thing,
And like, look at Mr. Beast, right?
Yeah.
Now he could open up any business he wants, put the Beast brand on it, and it's a success overnight. He's competing against Nestle, you know, this legacy business, you know, billions of dollars.
Nestle doesn't have a face. That's why.
He don't have a face. He doesn't have a brand. And what do the kids want to buy? They want to buy Beast stuff. They want to buy his Lunchables. You know, so personal brand and people are what we actually are interested in investing in nowadays. And so building one for yourself, like what you do and what I do, and then the kids, they're going to start doing that too.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just shocked. Like the younger generation, they're figuring things out at lightning speed.
Fast.
That the older generations are like, this is a scam. Like, how are you making money doing social media posts?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you guys have no idea what's going on out there. It's crazy. Yeah. So it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
And thank God it happened, because I don't think the old way of what the baby boomers investment strategy was would necessarily work that well for the average person.
Yeah.
For a dentist, you can still buy a home and hold. You can still buy the stocks and hold. But most people are really just going day to day.
No, the average person is struggling with a capital S. Like, it is rough out there. I do a lot of nonprofit work, so I help like families who are, single parents, people with disabilities, immigrants with free financial planning, because they can't afford our services and all that, and no one talks to them because they have no money. And when I talk to these families, I'm like distraught after talking to them, because I'm like, I don't know how you're going to get by. Like, your income is $3,000 a month, but your rent is $2,200. You got $800 left to cover groceries and all. I don't know how you're doing it. And you're right. The traditional way, yes, it works for dentists. It's fine. You have excess income. Yeah. For everyone else, it's like, and it's not like dentists it's easy for them either. Most of these young associates I meet are coming out of school with $350,000 to $400,000 of student loans. When you add up the professional student line of credit, which is probably at like $250,000, $275,000, and then you have their OSAP or federal or provincial loans, it's like you're looking at like $350,000 a lot of the times. And to pay that off takes so long, because you're pulling all this money out of your corporation and you're paying such a high tax rate just to pay it off.
Right.
And so you're in this catch-22. Do I incorporate, save money on taxes, but pay a lot of interest to the bank? Or do I just pull everything out, pay everything down, and pay a lot of tax? It's like this catch-22, you're stuck. But then once you get over that hurdle, now, especially if you're in like BC and Ontario, now you're buying a house at such a high price point. And then on top of that, you're like, okay, now I want to have children. Now I want to travel. Now I want to have a car. Now I want to have these things that I was told as a dentist I can have, but I feel like I can't actually have them. I feel like I can't afford them right now, but I'm still going to get them. I'm just going to struggle to do it. And I'm going to have to keep increasing my production in order to, that's nasty, I spat on the mic. I'm going to have to keep increasing my production in order to, sustain my lifestyle. And then my kids got to go to private school, and then you have jiu-jitsu class and this and that. And it just becomes this cycle. So everyone is struggling to a large degree. And I think that's just where we're at. And I think crypto is just a nice, refreshing area, because you're like, oh, this is brand new and I can hold this for a long time. And this might be a way to actually get financially free.
Places in the world where you can actually get in early.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
I was late to Amazon, late to early gold prices. I was late to real estate. I'm just late to so many things. And it's because I didn't hit my peak earning years until a certain age.
Of course.
So you have to look where you are and what's going on in the world and going, okay. And luckily, even with crypto, I didn't get into Bitcoin in 2009 when it came out. I got in 2015. So even I was late.
I was the same time. I was at UBC when I was dabbling in it. And it was funny, as I sold all my stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what is this? Like, it's not real. I made some money and I got scared and I got out of it. I was into weed stocks and crypto. That was my
gosh, the weed stocks got destroyed.
Yeah, that was my university years. That's what I was dabbling in. Cause I was like, I need to make money fast.
Yeah.
I was going to school full time. I was working full time. I was like, I gotta buy mom a house. I gotta take care of her. So I'm trying everything I could. Yeah. And then I got out of all of it. And then I got into the traditional stuff.
Yeah.
My biggest fear with crypto has actually always been not about the actual asset class itself. It's always been about government regulation. I remember saying this vividly to one of my clients. He wanted to invest, and this is back in 2019, maybe 2020. He's like, what are your thoughts on this? I was like, honestly, it's too good to be true. Because I said, the government is never going to give up its power over people, because its power over people is control of money supply. Yeah. Why would they allow us to do this? And he's like, well, it's decentralized. I was like, but the government's so good at tracking things that I was like, again, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but let's say I go to a hospital and I need treatment and they find out I haven't paid taxes in 15 years because I haven't used fiat currency in 15 years. I've just been on crypto. Am I going to get the treatment? Like, how do I, I've always been worried about that. I was like, it's too good to be true. The government's not going to allow this. But now that we're having governments start to open up to this,
right?
I'm like, all of a sudden my fear of this is too good to be true is no longer accurate.
Let me tell you how I've overcome that fear.
Yeah.
You actually overcome it with a long-term mindset.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a financial tool that's being built. And if you take a look at owning stock, right, at some point, if you buy the right kind of portfolio, you can leverage that in some way so you don't have
to take a loan
sell.
Against it. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right now, it's not easy to do that. In the DeFi world, you actually can. I could take out a DeFi loan.
You could stake it. Yeah.
I could stake it, and then I can take out a DeFi loan for like 90 to 100% of the total amount. So I could literally buy a house on pure debt with no bank involved right now. Now, obviously, it'd be like, where'd you get the money from?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Well, there's this smart contract protocol, and there's my money locked in there, and I loaned this amount, so this is actually debt. As the regulations start to open up and become more friendly, there will be options to actually keep your crypto, though, but loan against it.
Yeah, with fiat. Yeah.
And so to me, it's all about good money, bad money, and you want to spend your bad money first.
Yeah.
Like, I think cash is trash. Like, I don't, anytime I have like real like fiat money, I'm just not interested in it. Yeah. Like, I want it in an asset form.
Yeah.
I want it in a form where it can go up, because it's pretty simple to look at the history of any dollar. It will never, ever, ever go up. It will always just kind of tick down because of inflation, cost of living. Your dollar is just getting inflated to zero or deflated to zero. And so right now, they just, in the US, Jerome Powell kind of came forward and he said, look, I think the tightening, the fiscal tightening is coming to an end.
Yeah.
Bro, the markets love to hear that.
Yeah. Oh, they love it.
They love the money printer.
Yeah.
And everyone gets excited. Okay, finally, they're going to money is going to be a little more plentiful. But what they don't realize...
It's not actually a good thing.
It's not actually a good thing.
No, not at all.
Like, all the value...
I was having panic attacks during COVID.
Yes. And so what people don't realize, your asset prices or value didn't go up. The value of your purchasing power went down.
I'm so glad you said that. You're 100% right. I always give this analogy. Yeah. If you look at a Big Mac, I don't know, back in like the 60s, whatever it was, let's call it $1. I don't remember what it was. But today it's like, what, $5, $6? I have no idea. Big Macs didn't become more valuable. Your currency became less valuable. So it takes more dollars to buy a Big Mac. Now take that to housing, take that to stocks, take that to everything. They didn't necessarily, if we control for inflation, I would argue a lot of this stuff didn't actually become more valuable. Our dollar just went down. And like, especially in like the BC and Ontario markets, real estate's on a tear. And I tell people, I'm like, it's not necessarily because like real estate is the best asset class. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm Indian. We love real estate. That's all we do. That's like, that's our thing. Even me, like, I love real estate. Yeah. But it's like, don't confuse this. A lot of this is just inflation driven. Right. A lot of this is just money supply. Yep. And it's like, we're just printing dollars. And what happens is people don't realize when you see stuff like that, don't get upset about it. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Yes. And if you understand the game, don't hate the rich, understand how to be one of the rich. It's like, just play the game by the rules that the rich have made. Funny enough, going back to the crypto, remember how you said you got over the fear of this being too good? How I got over it. I always view the entire world as self-interested. Everyone is focused on their own incentive. So the only way you could trust people is by making sure your incentives are aligned. That's the only way you can trust individuals. There is no other trust other than that. I don't care if it's your mother, your wife, whoever. If your incentives are not aligned, that relationship's not going to work. My whole thought process on the crypto thing was, the only way I got over that fear of this is too good to be true is when I started seeing rich people invest in it. Because I'm like, now it can never go down. Because they don't want their assets to go down. Okay. Because like when it comes to the stock market and real estate, everyone's like, what if it crashes? I was like, that's going to upset every rich person and powerful person in the world. They won't let it happen, buddy. Like, it's going to happen for a short period of time, but that's just so everyone else can buy in again. And it's like, as soon as I started seeing really wealthy investors investing, like when BlackRock got in, I was like, this is never going down. They're too powerful for it to ever go down. Yep. They need it to go up. This is why I like shout this from the rooftops with clients. You're probably on my email list. When the market goes down, I'm like, this is wonderful. Let's buy in more. Because they're like, what if it goes to zero? I'm like, it can't. You understand that you would upset every rich and powerful person if this went to zero. they will rig the game so it never goes to zero.
Speaking of rigging, they often will use the fear out there of this asset class to buy at a better price.
100%.
The government is the buyer of last resort, right?
Yeah.
This is why they always get rock bottom prices. They basically call the bottom of every market.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what they buy, they're buying it at the bottom of the business cycle because they're the ones who get to turn on the printer to ramp up again. And so when you look at 4-year to 6-year debt cycles, what was really interesting after 2008, with the financial crisis, all of the bears were screaming, we're gonna die, the market's gonna crash. We had a 13-year bull run.
Yeah,
it was
insane.
You couldn't even stop. You're just like, will this thing ever go down?
You could put your money in anything, it would have went up.
We're right in the opposite. And remember, crypto's only existed in that 13-year period of nonstop printing.
Yeah.
So people look at the prices now and they go, but it's been going down. It's so volatile. I'm like, bro, look at the 13 years we had. These last couple of years after COVID, when they started they printed and then they started tightening, this period crypto's never been in this period before when there's fiscal tightening.
Yeah.
But guess what? They just said they're going to release the hounds again.
Yeah.
So you got to take a step back and look at the big picture and realize cycles, they just come and they go. That's why waiting works so well.
Exactly.
If you could just wait through all the cycles, you'll be fine. And every market has sort of like its own timing. Real estate is a little bit delayed. Crypto is more of a leading indicator.
Yeah.
So once you see kind of where you are in the cycle and you can see all this fear and panic. Oh man, I tell my dental assistant while we're sitting there, hey, did you see the stock market go down? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you should buy.
Yeah.
You should be jumping for joy. And we had a boomer.
If you're young, you should be jumping for joy.
She's 20.
Yeah.
But we had a baby boomer in the chair. And I'm literally and then I'm like millennial-ish, right in the middle. And I'm telling her, she's upset.
Yeah.
You should be thrilled.
Yes, exactly.
She owns all of the stocks. She owns all the assets. You have none.
Yeah.
And the dental assistant, she signed up on Wealthsimple. And she
got her whole thing going. Yeah.
Okay. You should be excited as a young person when you see the stocks go down.
Absolutely.
Volatility, crypto go down. You should be ecstatic because you're not in yet. And once you're in, then you can start
just buying in at lower prices.
But
and that's why
if you align yourself with those who have all the money, you're likely to be just fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't buy expensive crap that, you're aligning yourself with the wrong group.
Yeah.
That group is trying to look rich. This group is rich. Yeah. They're wealthy. They have long money. Generational money.
It's old money.
It's old.
There's a big difference. I tell all my clients, I joke with them, especially with the younger ones. I'm like, my job is to take you from new money to old money.
Yeah.
The new money is you do all the right things. You bought an index fund, you did, a couple things. But it's old money is the strategic understanding of how wealth is actually built long term.
Yeah.
And more importantly, having the wisdom to stay in assets. And more importantly, having the wisdom to see when something's just a bubble and that's not the one. Jay-Z had this line and it was you ever sit in a room and you've heard a quote and you remember how it instantly changed your life?
Yeah.
I remember Jay-Z having an interview and he was talking about how he was, music was all about the white hot space with a hit. You want to make a hit and that's the thing. And Jay-Z's I was never focused on making a hit. I wanted to be forever. I wanted my music to play 20 years after I was out of the game. And he said this thing, he said, would you rather be a trend or would you rather be Ralph Lauren? And I remember, I heard that. I have goosebumps right now as I hear it. I was like, that's my new investment philosophy. It came from Jay-Z. I was like, I'm just going to try to buy the thing that's forever.
Yeah.
Instead of that comes back to the thing of trying to buy the thing that I'm just going to sell to someone else because I know it's a quick play. It's no.
Shouldn't have bought it
I'm going to buy the thing that you would never sell if someone even gave you money for it.
Yeah.
What's that thing?
Yep.
That would be things like land. That would be the entire stock market.
Yep.
That would be things like crypto that I'm I don't want to sell this. I want to pass this on to my children.
Right.
That is my thought process when I buy things.
So going back to the policy of the government, if that's the fear, but that's also the thing that's going to keep you in the market.
100%.
Just wait. Yeah. Let things play out because you might think that the tax-free selling of your primary residence will be there forever. What if a policy changes and now you got to pay taxes? So anything
I wouldn't be surprised by the time you and I are getting to retirement age that it's gone.
Some people think government's a scam. They're always just coming up with some scheme to take their cut.
Yeah.
Right?
Everyone's coming for their cut. Exactly. It's all incentives. Yeah. I wanted to shift gears because you went into this DeFi space.
Yeah.
What made you get back into dentistry? Because you took some time off, you sold your clinic, you got into DeFi, you started coding, but now you're a clinic owner again.
Yeah.
How was that transition?
So I was an associate for about 7-8 years, and quite honestly, it was like the greatest time of dentistry because as
Sorry, 7-8 years after running that previous clinic?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I sold and I just associated part-time. I was only working about 2-3 days a week.
Got it.
And it was great because, you know, I just got time to myself. You know, you take the gloves off at the end of the day. You don't think about anything. But as time went on, I'm starting to see my kids get older, right? And I'm starting to think about life. You know, I know what's going to hit me. You can predict most of these things. You know, they're going to want to go to college. They want to get married. One of them might want to be a dentist someday. I don't know. Like, it would be a dream of mine if one of them said, "Hey, Dad, I got into dental school."
Yeah.
I'd be like, let's go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And so for me, whenever I think about all of these options in life, I think what a lot of people get wrong is they think they have the option, but it's not even on the table yet. So for me, if I wanted the option to pass off a clinic to my child, I need to own it. Right. And then I also thought about, well, they're going to need to get their wisdom teeth out and all this stuff. And I just like the freedom to like be in charge. But I didn't have that feeling early on after I sold because I was trying to get out of that. I was like, man, I'm tired. I need a little break. Eventually it came back. It's like, actually, I want to be in charge again. And so it kind of depends where you are in your career. And at that time, I was cool being an associate. It was great, you know, working with, you know, Dr. Polishuk was awesome. Like, he's a super nice guy. But then eventually it got to the point where like, I think I need to get back on the horse and like really own this for a lot of different reasons, right? Because I also wanted to trigger some investment strategies as well. And in order to do that, it's a lot easier to control your income than, you know, bounce around at 3 different clinics and try to like capital, you know, make a bunch of money from 3 different places, but you're not really committed to any of them. Yeah. The other thing that really got me interested is I started going to Beverly Hills and mentoring on veneers and like more cosmetic work. And then we started doing Botox at the office, and I started really liking it because I'm like, man, the transformations are so cool. Yeah. Just to watch people's smile just transform right in front of your eyes is like, man, there's nothing like it. But I was always surgical based, like doing wisdom teeth and stuff. And I started moving in that direction. I started liking it. And that kind of reinvigorated my love for dentistry because I realized what you can do for somebody by simply changing their smile. Yeah. And then even getting rid of a few wrinkles. Yeah. You know, people just want to feel good at the end of the day. It's not about the teeth. Yeah. It's about, will this make me feel the way I want to feel when I look at myself in the mirror every day? Stuff like that was starting to happen. And so like, it wasn't just one thing. It was like an accumulation of my life, just realizing like, man, I think owning a business would be the smartest move right now in my life at this point in time.
And that could change in the future. But as of right now,
change in the future. And I'm totally fine for that, you know, but this clinic is, I always say it like, this is kind of like it. I'd rather just have one really strong clinic rather than running around the city trying to manage 3-4 smaller clinics, you know, and basically exponentially increasing my headaches. Yeah. I like my team. I'm just trying to pay them well and do good work and just focus on that. And that to me is how I can basically transition in the last third of my career. Yeah. And that makes sense for me. Some people, associating is like the way to go till they retire. Yeah. There's really no answers here.
No, there isn't.
It's like, you have to know where you are financially. You got to know where you are mentally. You got to know where you are in your family. You know, you talked about the whole, what did you call it? Like
the adulting avalanche.
The adulting avalanche. Yeah. Like all of these things start hitting you, you know, when you start realizing that your kids have increasing needs that you are going to have to pay for. Yeah. Some of them may want to work, and now my daughter can pick up a shift whenever she wants. Like
we split some income.
Things,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all these little things like matter to me now. Yeah. And it didn't when they were younger and they were just doing their thing. Suddenly they want to buy a car. Yeah. You know, suddenly they want to do this and that. A lot of this you can just fund through a business, and it's smart. It's just financially smart to own. Yeah. But also the opportunity came up. You know, I was actually on the verge of potentially doing a startup.
Okay.
Yeah. But then the opportunity to buy it came up, and I just said, well.
And the principal was retiring. Were you associating there first?
Yeah, I was associating. Okay. So I had been there for 7-8 years. Got it. And it made sense. Like, I know the team. They know me. Yeah. They know exactly what they're getting into. Yeah. There was like no turnover. Like, everyone stayed, and we're like growing. We're like working together to build it to be better.
It's the ideal situation, because I tell my clients all the time, if you can just buy into the clinic that you already work at, there's no better scenario 100%. Because you're not going to deal with patient or staff churn.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest issues when you go and buy a clinic and you've never worked there before, which is what most people do because they don't have the opportunity to buy in.
Yeah.
And it's not because their principal doesn't want to sell. Maybe the timing's just wrong. Maybe the principal doesn't want to sell for another 10 years, but you want to be a clinic owner today.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going to have to go and buy another clinic or do a startup.
So these problems you're talking about, so I'm working with a company right now called valuationdental.com, which is kind of trying to be the Zillow of dental, what do they call it? Like the
Marketplace?
brokerage.
Okay.
Like to disrupt the brokerage market. And when I initially talked with the developer, he's got like 2 PhDs and he's super smart. He does like data science, and he really is trying to democratize the data that dentists have in their clinic. Okay. He's like, I don't understand why you guys pay for all these analytics. It's your data. Why don't you just plug into an API that like does it for you and we can make it super cheap? Mm-hmm. But then you can have a running tally of what your valuation of your practice is worth at all times, just like they do in real estate. And I looked at things like this, and this is kind of where my thoughts in the future are going, is like, I get what's going on with the current brokerage situation in buying and selling. I understand where the market's going with DSOs. I understand like the hardest one to do is probably like a 3-4 chair clinic unless you're really niche and you do something that no one else does. But really, I think that tech is coming for the industry, and it will disrupt so that you and I could just do an agreement and just buy and sell, and that'll open up opportunities for buyers. And I agree, it's really tough out there to find a clinic because they're such valuable assets. You know,
why would you want to let them go?
You wouldn't want to let them go. And I understand, like, I know some guys that own like 30 clinics. Yeah. It's just not my thing. Yeah. Like, I just don't want to do that. Yeah. And for them, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. And kudos to you, like wanting to handle 30 of these things and delegate and hire a bunch of managers. But even they struggle with people. Because at the end of the day, you still need to get a commitment from a dentist to come and do the dentistry.
To be an associate. And you have to attract the right associates and the right team. Yeah. I think it like goes back to what you and I started this conversation with, is that there's no right answer for anything in anything in life. It's like, I have some clients who I personally feel, my personal opinion, is that running a clinic that's large, that you manage and you love the team, is better than owning 15 or 20 clinics. 100%. Because what happens when you own 15 or 20 clinics, or even 5 or more, you're now playing in the DSO space, but you're not a big enough player to play in the DSO space.
Exactly.
And so you're just like a mini DSO, and it's harder and it's more difficult. Whereas if you run a clinic that is just you, your team, you guys run it really well and you enjoy everyone who works there, like, you're probably going to end up in a much better spot financially. Now, again, that's my personal opinion. Yeah. I have clients who own multiple clinics and they're doing a really good job, but their trade-off and their lifestyle is different. You just have to figure out what works for you and what you want as a person. And like, the whole valuation side of things, I view appraisals on a regular basis. My job is kind of turning into like a advisor for clients who are buying clinics. Because like, we do the financial planning for them, the investments, the insurance, the mortgage, and my whole team handles a lot of the stuff. And well, what clients are really coming to me for more than anything now is, hey, I'm buying this clinic. Does this clinic make sense for me? Can you make sense of these numbers for me? Because I'm reading this appraisal and it's just going over my head. And then I'm going through these appraisals a lot of the times and I'm like, well, hey doc, this is what you're actually going to probably produce. Here's after your loan payments and all of this. Here's what you're going to make before you pay yourself an associate fee. I was working on a clinic that was actually here in Calgary, and it was $261K. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I'll make $261K the first year, keeping everything the same. I was like, that's before you pay yourself an associate fee. And he's like, oh. And I was like, you currently make $350K a year being an associate. You are going to make less money by running this clinic. 100%. His accountant didn't talk to him about that. His banker didn't talk to him about that. No one talked about it. The appraisal actually said the opposite. The appraisal had these normalized numbers for adding back the
speaking of scams, EBITDA and adjusted EBITDA. Like,
it's what did Warren Buffett say? It's bullshit wrapped in horseshit. You and I can look at the same clinic and come up with very different adjusted EBITDA numbers.
Yes.
It depends on how we formulate it.
Hence why, like, alternatives are going to pop up. You know, like any mature market, you're going to have disruption. And that's why I'm looking at like different technologies, AI, to try to figure out a way. Can dentists just figure out a way to do deals with amongst themselves? Because whenever there's a mature market like we have in the dental brokerage space or even real estate space, you accumulate so much of this legacy cost that's just unnecessary, right? There's just layers and layers of like, why am I paying for this? And I'm not trying to diss any brokers.
Yeah, you're gonna get me in trouble here.
Yeah, I'm not trying to diss brokers because, quite frankly, a lot of dentists don't know how to sell their clinic.
Yeah,
they need a broker, right? Like,
you're not the average use case. Exactly.
Right. But if you wanted a running tally of like what your valuation is worth so that you can start dialing up and say, I need to fix this, I need to improve that. like that's the kind of stuff that I think dentists can do, but they don't have access to their data because everything is so complicated.
Yeah.
Right. So you only kind of get that feedback once you get evaluation. Then you're like, oh, wow, this is how much I make. And it's all an illusion because at the end of the day, it's still going to be you serving the patients, and it's what you can do, not what the other dentists could do.
100%. So it's funny, when I had that conversation with this gentleman, I said, hey, the biggest, like I had a whole spreadsheet out for him, and there was one box that was in red. He's like, why is that box in red? I was like, that's the only thing you control. It was production. I said, we need to make sure your production is at X amount for this clinic to be worth it. Now, don't get me wrong. That clinic, we're probably still going to go through with it because he's like, you know what? I don't mind taking a little bit of a pay cut, because that's if I keep the production the same. This gentleman can go in, that clinic wasn't really doing any surgery. He's like, I can come in, I could do a lot of the surgery, I could increase that production number, and now I'll be making the same amount that I make as an associate, but now I'm building equity in this practice, and I want to, he was just sick of being an associate.
Yeah.
He's had like 6 associateships since he graduated. Like, he just keeps hopping around. He's like, I just want a place to call my own. I don't even care if I make less money. So again, it goes back to what makes sense for you. But I always tell my clients, you need to make sure, like, or at least me, I need to make sure that there's numbers behind that emotional decision. Let me give you the numbers, and then you could decide if it's worth it. And a lot of the times when they're looking at these numbers, like, it's just nonsense. You read them and you're like, okay, how much is this clinic actually going to make? And everyone has a different number. Everyone has a different way of adjusting this or whatever. And that's not to say the brokerages are doing anything wrong. EBITDA is just, it's the way that we calculate things, but because we don't have a better way of doing things.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, it works, it's industry standard. But I honestly
it adds some consistency. Yeah.
It adds some consistency, but you know, when you have interest rates the way that they are, and you see these kids coming out of school with $400K, you know, they get pressured into these situations. And the truth is, like, it's just like real estate. Yeah. It's in the best interest of the broker to make sure that you can maximally buy or max out the amount of money that they'll loan you. And I feel like sometimes that's the leading metric that's used to then reverse engineer what things are worth. Because you look in the US, I mean, practice prices are much, much lower for the same level of production with a much stronger dollar. So just going back to like the main point of what I think is becoming like the main theme of this whole podcast, like,
it depends.
Nothing works. It all depends. Everything's a scam unless in your hands it actually works. Then suddenly it's not a scam. And it doesn't matter if it's DeFi, it doesn't matter if it's family, it doesn't matter if it's dentistry. I mean, you got to find your way. And there's the mechanical part of like, how do you use a dental drill, and how do you sterilize, and how do you talk to patients? But then there's the art of it. Like, how do you want to live? You know, do you want to live comfortable the way you want to live? Do you want to work with your family? Do you want to go on vacation most of the year? I heard about a dentist, he goes to Mexico like every month.
Okay.
I've never been to Mexico. You know what I mean? That's just not what I want to do. And so it's really hard. But this hopefully can help a lot of the young ones, young dentists coming out. Don't get so caught up in what other people are doing.
No.
What they drive is irrelevant, because you don't know if it's a lease. You don't know if their business is paying for it. You don't know if they can afford it. You don't know if they're having marital problems. You don't know anything. You're literally just looking at this brand and saying, oh, they must be successful. And I've seen it, man. I've seen, even in myself, I've gotten this FOMO throughout my career, like, should I be doing that? And you get caught. You get caught in doing things that didn't come from your heart, didn't come from your soul. It came from some suggestion that one of your colleagues was doing, and you're like, oh man, I'm mimicking them without realizing. It's so subconscious, you don't realize it. You're just being tricked, man. So that would be one of my big messages to like any of your clients who are like actually right out of school. Ignore the world. Do your thing. Build your personal brand. Take care of your patients. Who cares what everyone else is doing? They will never pay your bills, ever.
Yeah.
They won't even take you for lunch.
Yeah.
Who cares what they're doing? And that kind of message just needs to be amplified, man.
Yeah.
Like people need to know it's you versus you. There's nothing there for you if you're trying to impress other people. It doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't make your family successful. It does nothing.
I have nothing to add to that. I was actually going to ask you as we wrapped up, like, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom to like the younger generation, or honestly, not even just the younger generation, just dentists in general? And you put it perfectly. Like, you just have no idea what someone's going through in their life. Like, just do what works for you, your family, and what makes you happy. So I honestly think that's a perfect place to end it. I appreciate you coming on, Kamea.
Hey man, I'm happy to speak with you. Like, this has been great. I've been watching you the whole time ever since you came out, and I think you have such a pragmatic, focused kind of message that I think I wish I knew that early on. I would have made way better financial decisions in that case. But I appreciate your work, man. You're doing awesome.
No, I appreciate the kind words, man.
Yeah,
this is perfect.
And there you have it. Thoughtful perspectives and real-world lessons. If you'd like to connect with Dr. Lafontaine, you can find his links in our show notes. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to the Dental Journeys podcast.
The content presented in this podcast is for informational purposes only, and it should not be considered personalized financial, investment, tax, legal, dental, or any other professional advice. Opinions expressed by the hosts or the guests are personal, and they do not represent the views of any affiliated organizations, employers, or professional bodies. Listeners are encouraged to consult directly with qualified professionals regarding their specific circumstances. Neither the host or any guests assume liability for decisions made by listeners based solely on the content discussed in this episode. Always seek the advice of your own licensed professionals before making any individual, financial, healthcare, or professional decisions.